There is a city in Texas with a population larger than Richmond, Virginia. And yet, there is no Amtrak station in this city, and no plans to bring Amtrak to this city. The city I'm talking about is Lubbock, Texas. At a population of over 250,000 residents, it is one of the 100 largest cities in the United States. It has a large university in Texas Tech, which has nearly 33,000 students as of fall 2023. And yet, there are no plans to bring Amtrak or any form of rail transit to this city and university. In this latest installment of the Rallying for Collegiate Rail series, we will talk about my vision for bringing passenger rail to Texas Tech and to Lubbock. Why college campuses? Because college campuses have lower percentages of car ownership than most other areas. And because of this fact, colleges are places we should make an extra effort to bring passenger rail to. At the turn of the millennium, there was a proposal to have a passenger rail line going between Fort Worth, Texas, and Denver, Colorado. Lubbock would have been a stop on the route, and the route would have been called the Caprock Chief or the Caprock Express, starting with an X and being spelled Press. There was even a lot of local buy-in for this service, as Amarillo City Commission and Lubbock's Chamber of Commerce were both in favor of the plan. However, the Texas Association of Rail Passengers acknowledged in 2004 that the chances of getting the railway were made small. I'm not sure why this was the case, but regardless, that was what happened. In 2013, there was the possibility that the Southwest Chief long distance Amtrak line would be rerouted so that it could go through Amarillo, Texas, north of Lubbock. This sparked some renewed interest in the Caprock Chief proposal, but that interest did not lead to any serious proposal. And so, this brings us to where we are today. There are several cities with six-digit populations, west or northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth, that currently have no Amtrak service. Midland, Odessa, Abilene, Amarillo, Wichita Falls, and of course, Lubbock. The Federal Railroad Administration, or FRA, has proposed a long-distance line heading between Dallas and San Francisco. Looking at the map, it seems like the line would have stops in Midland, Odessa, and Abilene. The FRA has also proposed a Denver to Houston long-distance line, which would have stops in Wichita Falls and Amarillo. But notice that I haven't mentioned Lubbock. Despite being the largest of these 6 Amtrak-less cities in Texas I mentioned, Lubbock is the only one of those 6 that doesn't even have a proposal to get Amtrak. For the record, I think the other 5 should get Amtrak service too. But proposing service for those 5 cities, but not for Lubbock, just gives the feeling that Lubbock is being a little left out or forgotten. But if you are a student at Texas Tech, or a resident of Lubbock who feels a little left out, I have good news for you. This channel isn't going to leave you out. If neither Amtrak nor the federal government has a proposal to bring passenger rail to Lubbock and to Texas Tech University, I am going to make a proposal. Well, actually, 2 proposals, because there are 2 different options I'll put on the table. A proposal for a shorter distance route and a proposal for a longer distance route. And each of the 2 proposals will have its pluses and minuses that I'll discuss once I'm done summarizing the routes. I should also note that these 2 proposals are not mutually exclusive per se. I can make an argument for the shorter distance route, making local stops in smaller cities, while the longer distance route only makes stops in larger cities. Cities like, well, Lubbock. So, let's take a look at the shorter distance route I propose. Its southern/eastern terminus would be in Dallas. Going to the west and north, I would have stops in Fort Worth, Weatherford, Eastland, Cisco, Abilene, Sweetwater, Snyder, Slayton, Lubbock, Plainview, Tulia, Canyon, and Amarillo. People already know about some of the larger cities I mentioned here, but to introduce some of the smaller cities and towns mentioned here, Weatherford has a population of about 30,000 people. Its population has more than doubled over the last 30 years. Because of that explosive population growth, I think it's worth making sure a Weatherford station has the infrastructure it needs if this rate of population growth continues. Eastland has a population of about 3,600 people. They would have gotten Caprock Chief service if it were implemented, and their population is pretty close to what it was when Caprock Chief service was proposed at the turn of the 21st century. Cisco's population is slightly larger than Eastland's, and is about 10 miles west of Eastland. Yes, I know, 10 miles west of Eastland sounds confusing. Sweetwater has a population just over 10,000 people, and is to the west of Abilene. It would also be over by Sweetwater, where the train starts going northwest towards Lubbock rather than due west, if you're going in the direction of Amarillo. Or, if you're going towards Dallas, it's where the train goes more due east as opposed to going southeast. Snyder has a population of about 11,000 people. Slayton has a population just under 6,000 people. And apparently, a major yard for the BNSF Railway is located in Slayton. So, there's some rail history and rail culture there, meaning that I could see Slayton overachieving in ridership for a place of its population size. Plainview has a population close to 20,000 people. Fun fact about Plainview: the Jimmy Dean Meat Company was first opened in Plainview. Maybe that'll give you something to chew on while eating a breakfast sandwich. Tulia has a population of about 4,500 people, and Canyon has a population of close to 15,000 people, growing its population by a double-digit percentage between the 2010 census and the 2020 census. Now that we've talked about the shorter distance route serving Lubbock and Texas Tech, let's take a look at the longer distance route that could serve the area. The longer distance route I'd propose would be, for the most part, the plan for the Caprock Chief / Caprock Express between Dallas and Denver. I say, for the most part, because if this were to run in addition to, rather than instead of, my Dallas to Abilene line, I don't think it needs to stop at all the stops my Dallas to Abilene line has. I think the long distance line can be an express counterpart to local service that also has stops at smaller cities and towns. But rather than going into the nitty gritty of which stops would be on the long distance Caprock Chief / Caprock Express, and under which circumstances, I'll just outline the stops proposed for this service: Fort Worth, Weatherford, Eastland, Abilene, Sweetwater, Lubbock, Plainview, Amarillo, Boise City, Oklahoma, La Junta, Colorado, Pueblo, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Littleton, Colorado, and Denver. What do I think of my idea versus the Caprock Chief / Caprock Express idea? I am generally a long-distance rail skeptic, due to the inability of long-distance rail to be consistently punctual. So I admit to coming in with that bias in mind. But if Amtrak finds a way to make long distance rail faster and more reliable than it currently is, I think there would definitely be demand for a Dallas to Denver line. The number 4 destination for people at the Dallas Fort Worth International Airport is Denver. The number 2 destination for people at Dallas Love Field is Denver. Those numbers tell me that if you are to provide reliable rail transit between the two cities, a portion of those nearly 1.3 million people traveling between the Dallas airports and the Denver airport every year will choose to take the train rather than the plane. And if even 10% of the nearly 1.3 million people flying between the two cities took the train instead, that would be nearly 130,000 people a year, or over 350 people a day. 350 people. That's more people than what you can fit onto most Amtrak trains. And that's before we even account for all the people and stops between Dallas and Denver. For example, the Colorado Springs Airport has over 330,000 passengers heading from there to the two major Dallas airports. And passenger statistics from the Lubbock and Amarillo airports indicate demand for travel to and from Denver. All this leads me to conclude that the demand would be there for a Dallas to Denver long distance route if the route were reliable and relatively fast. Not necessarily high speed rail fast, but 110 to 125 miles an hour fast, which, let's be honest, is still faster than most trains in America anyway. But what about a Dallas to Amarillo route? I see this route as a supplement to the long distance route, if that were to exist. Notice that my plan for the Dallas to Amarillo route involves some stops in smaller cities and towns. Stops that the longer distance route need not stop at. Kind of related, I also think this shorter distance route could be a good candidate for extra service on special event days, ranging from Texas Tech football and basketball games to the Dallas Cowboys losing another playoff game. There's one major concern with both proposals, though: money. I think both ideas would require significant investment to make them possible. And I say that for a couple of reasons. First, the maximum speeds allowed on much of these tracks is just way too slow. According to the Open Railway map, the maximum speed allowed between Fort Worth and Sweetwater is 70 miles per hour, which isn't spectacular when I think we should be aiming for rail speeds operating at the 110 mile per hour to 125 mile per hour range. But it gets worse. Between Sweetwater and Lubbock, maximum speeds are 55 miles per hour, with areas where trains should go even slower than that. And then between Lubbock and Denver, the maximum allowed train speed seldom goes above 50 miles per hour. The travel becomes most leisurely north of Colorado Springs, Colorado, where trains are limited to a pokey 25 miles per hour. To get trains to go as fast as they should, there needs to be significant investment in rail infrastructure to make that possible. And that's not going to be cheap. The second reason I say investment is needed is that much of the railway between Dallas and Denver is single-tracked. That means few opportunities to pass freight trains, no opportunity for frequent bidirectional rail service, and likely no opportunity for express long-distance service to run alongside local medium-distance service. The only way to fix this is by installing new tracks, which costs money. In fact, I wonder if the significant investment needed was why the Caprock Chief / Caprock Express line became unlikely in the first place. I haven't been able to find a specific reason as to why the proposal died, But the resources needed to build this line into the reliable line customers deserve would have been significant and would be significant. To be clear, I think the investment is more than worthwhile for multiple reasons. But to make a Dallas to Denver line possible, I think it would require a level of commitment on passenger rail from politicians that I have often not seen. On that downer of a note to end on, if you have any thoughts about my proposals to bring passenger rail to Texas Tech University and to Lubbock, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a good day.